there's a new media outlet, Semaphore. I have a hard, so I subscribed to a news outlet called Puck News. Puck with a P, people. And it's an intriguing news outlet in that it is essentially the premise of the news outlet is that reporters who are inside an industry should be able to report about the industry and give you the scoop you may not be able to get other places. And I have learned stuff from it. I am particularly intrigued by the goings on inside Fox and CNN and various Hollywood outlets. It's very media oriented. It does follow the billionaires of Silicon Valley, things like that. And so I found some of the information, and it's not a news outlet for everybody. I mean, most people don't have as much interest in some of these industries as I do, but I've been kind of intrigued by it. And I figure, $100 a year, I'll subscribe to it. And it also, the way that the business model of this website works is that the reporters are actually the owners of the company per se, and they get paid based on how many subscribers they bring in for their stuff. So I'm kind of intrigued by it. Semaphore intends to be another Axios or New York Times. It's been started by Ben Smith, who was at Politico and then BuzzFeed and then the New York Times media writer, and now he started this. And it's essentially a news outlet where it gives you a general overview, and then it gives you the hot take by the reporter, which is supposed to be some level of analysis, and then it gives you other people's take and a bottom line. It kind of, here's the overview, here's what I think, here's what they think, here's how you synthesize all this stuff together. I don't know what I get from this outlet that I get from others, like this Puck News outlet. I can tell I'm getting stories and background information, and not all of it is there. There have been a couple of screw-ups. But the headline stories out there, Indonesia bans sex outside of marriage. January 6th committee plans to make criminal referrals to the Justice Department. Al Jazeera seeks ICC probe over killing of journalist. Elon Musk's brain implant company, Neuralink, is reportedly being investigated for its animal tests. But let me give you this one, for example. This is Semaphore headline, Inside the Senate's Last-Minute Immigration Push. It gives a general overview. The Senate was abuzz Monday about a potential bipartisan deal on immigration, da-da-da-da-da. And then there's our view. This Congress has already seen bipartisan breakthroughs, but immigration is a stretch. And then there's room for disagreement. Obama supporters, outside supporters of the deal, say this isn't a drill. Conditions are riper for talks on both sides than they've been in years. And then notable at the bottom, the Biden administration may make it harder to seek asylum at the border with or without Congress. But I could get all of that from the New York Times. I can get it from Axios, which would make it even more concise. But the top story at Semaphore today is a different story. This is the actual headline at the top of Semaphore, which is a very, oddly designed front page website too. Ron DeSantis is building his own media. Florida's governor is freezing out the mainstream press and giving interviews to outlets backed by GOP donors. So this is how it starts. In August, a producer for The View emailed Ron DeSantis' team, hoping to book the Florida governor on the daytime talk show in the days before the midterms. DeSantis declined the offer to chat with Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar. Instead, he sat down with Will Witt, the 26-year-old founder of the Florida Standard, a conservative website that launched just days earlier. The governor took the opportunity to complain about the mainstream media and tout his handling of the COVID-19 pandemic under the headline, Exclusive, Governor Ron DeSantis and Will Witt interview. Over the last year, DeSantis has given just a handful of interviews. Almost all of them have been with Fox News primetime or morning hosts or major conservative podcasters. But he's also carved out time for the Florida Standard and a similar site called Florida Voice, which launched in 2021. And then there's the view of the reporter, Max's view. DeSantis finds himself in the luxurious position of being able to brush off traditional media while receiving exceedingly friendly coverage from tame local websites and a national conservative press desperate for alternatives to Trump 2024. Then, of course, there was this profile from Mark Leibovich at The Atlantic that essentially says DeSantis is not a fun and convivial dude. He prefers to keep his earbuds in. His step away from the vehicle vibes are strong. That's how Leibovich essentially said he's not an exciting, fun person. And apparently he's not. He's a down-to-business guy who is more of an introvert than people might imagine, but he gets the job done. Isn't that what we want? Someone who's not schmoozing and whining and dining, but getting the job done. All of this is to say, the media is very upset Ron DeSantis is not kissing up to them. And why should he? Do you remember the 60 Minutes interview with Ron DeSantis? The 60 Minutes reporter essentially did an attack job on Ron DeSantis and Publix, the grocery store chain, over DeSantis's handling of COVID-19, and they had their basic facts wrong. And DeSantis called them out on the carpet live in the interview and told them they were full of it. And they've never recovered. They're out to get DeSantis, the mainstream media is. Essentially, what has happened, this is actually very important for all of you to understand. What the media interprets as part of the result of the midterm elections is that Republicans who are seen as willing to upend democracy, the Trumpian election theft denier sort of candidates, that the public rejects them. As a result, the mainstream media has decided to now target every Republican and accuse them of being a January 6th style election denying candidate willing to upend democracy. Jonathan Chait at New York Magazine has a piece out that Ron DeSantis has already decided to destroy American democracy. They're going full throat on this. Now, it doesn't really work so well. The public picks up on this stuff. The media essentially saw why Republican candidates lost and now want to extrapolate that and apply it to every other Republican to help them lose. And so here you have a guy who's not taking the bait. For example, Donald Trump had a Twitter outburst the other day where he suggested folks kind of ignore the Constitution, end the Constitution, change the Constitution in some capacity without following the amendment process. And then he walked it all back the next day. The media made sure we all heard about it. Nobody's on Truth Social anyway. Nobody read it. Nobody paid attention to it. Nobody cared. It's just the temper tantrum of an old man trying not to be forgotten. And yet the national media shoved microphones in the faces of every Republican on Capitol Hill they could get their hands on. What do you think about this? Do you too wish to subvert democracy? This is what's going to happen for the next 2 years. Every time Trump has an outburst, reporters will rush to get every Republican on the record. And DeSantis isn't having interviews with these people. He can't be put on the spot by these people. He does not care to humor these people. He has cultivated a conservative news network around him, from Fox News to Newsmax to conservative websites to conservative radio shows. Across the board, he is bypassing the media, and they are furious. They do not like it that he can get his message out without taking them seriously. They do not like it that Ron DeSantis can accomplish through outlets other than their own what he's able to accomplish. They do not like it one bit. And they can't stop him. Not only can they not stop him, they can't stop themselves from covering what he's talking about to these people. So his message gets out in their outlets anyway. It's one of the funny benefits of what he's doing. It's one of the funny benefits of it. It's one of those areas where DeSantis is running circles around the media in Trumpian-style ways, being able to ignore the press and still have them cover what he's saying. But there is a big difference. He's not willfully out there attacking the press every day, but the press has given him so much by which to attack him. They have essentially allowed DeSantis to go out and discredit the press because the press continues to attack him with false attacks that the left generates, and DeSantis already knows the attacks are coming. That 60 Minutes interview totally discredited the reporter who was doing it for 60 Minutes, not DeSantis. And it's happened time and time again. The willful hostility of the press in Florida to the legislation about not teaching kindergartners about sex that they call the Don't Say Gay bill totally discredited the media and Disney in the process. And he's done this time and time again, and they are furious about it. They have to cover him. They don't want to cover him fairly. Not only do they have to cover him, they've got to cite the interviews he gave. So they are essentially raising awareness of the conservative alternative media. The only thing they can do is the one thing they can never do, which is to ignore him. And he knows that, and they know that, and that's why they're so mad at him. It's actually a brilliant ploy on his part.